All right, how's everybody doing? I hope everybody's enjoying their morning. Today I'm going to be speaking about an incident that happened a few years ago between myself, Joe Perna, and a member of the Genovese family, which we call the West Side. So this happened in the city, in Manhattan, in a place called Lavo. Lavo is like a restaurant, and it has a nightclub in it as well. We went to dinner, Joey, myself, his wife, and someone I was dating, and there was an incident that took place. That's another story in itself, but it basically was Joey went over to a table and had words with somebody. He came back. I had been outside at the time making a telephone call. When I got back to the table, he started telling me what took place. So I looked over to the table that he was speaking of, and in front of that table was another table with about 5 guys there. And as Joey was talking to me, I seen them all looking over at us. And it wasn't the table that he was talking about, but they were definitely looking at us. And one of the guys stood up and he kind of folded his arms and he was looking at us. So I turned to Joey, I said, "Who the fuck is that?" So he says, "I don't know, they're looking over here." So I said, "Oh yeah?" So we had been eating steak, and I grabbed the steak knife off the table. I said, "Come on, let's go talk to them." So he says, No, John, put that knife down." So I put the knife down, and I walked over. When I got over there, someone at that table happened to be eating steak because there was a knife sitting there. So I put my hand on the knife, and they seemed to be looking to one guy. So he was sitting down, and that's the guy that I addressed. And I said to him, "Is there a problem over here?" I says, "Because if there is, I'm going to start at the left side of the table, and I'm going to start stabbing every one of you." So the guy says, "Oh, wait a minute." He says, "Listen, when I'm looking at you," I says, "Listen, you got a guy standing up staring at me. The whole table's looking at me. What's on your mind?" So he says, "Well, I'm Chris the Plumber from Staten Island." So I says, "I don't give a fuck if you're fucking Chris the Killer from the Bronx. What's that got to do with anything?" So then he turns around and he says, "Oh, I know Bubsy and Big John." I says, "And what is that supposed to mean?" Now, Big John was my skipper and Joey's skipper at the time. So I'm looking at Joey and he's shaking his head. So I said, "Listen, I don't know what you're looking at, but you better stop looking over at us. Unless you got something on your mind, speak your mind." So I go walk away with Joey. The guy don't say nothing. The other guy sits down. And I see the guy go run on the phone. A little time goes by. Joey gets a telephone call. And I see him talking on the phone. And he gets off of the phone. And he said, he called him the hat. And that's what he was calling Big John. He said that was the hat on the phone. He already got a call. This guy must have called and told him what happened. I said, "You're kidding me." So I look over and the whole table's gone. So I said, "Where did they go?" He says, I don't know where they went." So now my phone rings and it's Big John. So he says to me, "What happened? What happened over there?" So I said, "Listen, John, it was an incident that took place over here. Next thing I know, Joey's explaining the story to me. I look up and I'm getting murder ones from the whole table. They're all looking at me." So he says, "Well, where's the guy?" I says, "They're gone." He says, "That's because I told them to leave." I says, "Oh, you told them to leave?" He said, "Yeah." He says, "I told him, where's my friend now? Is he still in the place?" And the guy said, "Yeah." He says, "I told him, well, then you better get out of there. All of you better get out of there." They didn't even eat their appetizers. They got up and walked out, left the table. So now, that ends that night. The next morning, bright and early, my phone's ringing about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. It's John's brother, Bubsy. And he proceeds to tell me, "Oh, you had a beef with my friend last night. He's a dear friend of mine, my friend Chris, Chierchio, whatever the hell his name is." I said, "Who are you talking about? Chris the Plumber?" "Yeah." He says, "He's a dear friend of mine." I said, "Bubsy, what is that supposed to mean?" The guy was wrong. I approached them, and if they had something on their mind, they could have did it right then and there. He says, "Well, the guy called me this morning, He's all worried. He's been up all night. I says, really? I slept beautiful last night. He says, well, he's concerned. He wants me to reach out to you. He wants to know if this is over with. I say, Bubsy, let me tell you something. When I got home last night till when you called, I haven't thought about it one time. If he wants to make something of it, we could do that. If he wants it to be over with, we could do that too. It's over with. He says, well, let me tell him. He says, now he turns the story around. First he was talking good about the guy. He says, the guy's really like a mutt. He says, he's a friend. I said, I know that, which means that he was a member of the Genovese family. And he said, one time at Zio Toto, which is a restaurant in Staten Island, he said an associate stuck a knife to his throat and he didn't even do anything about it, which I'm surprised, because if the West Side got wind of that, he'd be shelved in a minute. He has to do something. So anyway, that was the story. Nothing became of it. The guy never did nothing. I just was surprised that the guy ran to John's brother with this. And it was just another night, another incident. I know it's another short story, but there's not much more to add to these stories. It is what it is. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their day. Take it easy. Take care of your health. Stay healthy. Ciao for now.